All right, guys. Sorry about that little bit of delay. Welcome to the Mansfield Buzz. We build the buzz about Mansfield business and the surrounding areas. And so we want to welcome you guys to the broadcast. We're on every Thursday from 2 to 3 live on YouTube and the Facebook group. And while we're doing that, let me go up here to our console and show you on YouTube. Please pass the word. You can chat with us today. If you happen to be on YouTube, you want to chat with us and ask some questions about solar, we'll post them right up on the screen for Leesa to answer. We're going to introduce her in a few minutes, but welcome to your two hosts, Jordan and Herdy. And then we got Leesa Mansen from the Solar Sunshine Company, who's going to talk solar with us today. Guys, we're also, I think, Jordan and I agree that starting in the next 2 weeks, not only are we going to have the live guests, but we're going to also start looking for a show sponsor per show. So I thought I'd throw that out there today. If you're interested in sponsoring one of our shows that one of our guests on, and it doesn't interrupt what their business does, and we'd love to talk to you, we're going to make it reasonable price. But please understand, and we also really want to build our subscriber list on YouTube. Jordan, you'll be pleased to hear this. We're up around close to 20 hours of watch time in less than 5 weeks. We have 28 subscribers, and we're not rushing it. We're just letting it slow build. So we want to thank all those people subscribing. If you happen to be listening today, you can comment with us. So let me show you really quickly also our Facebook on the Mansfield Buzz is facebook.com Mansfield Buzz. You can also go over and like that page. If you're on the live video today, or if you come back and watch the archive, make sure you click the little thumbs up underneath the video. That helps the YouTube algorithm get to know the content a little bit better and helps present it out there. So we want to welcome our guest today, Leesa Mansen with Sunshine Solar, and Jordan, who is a host, is going to take over and help us through getting to know solar today.
Yes, thank you. And Leesa, thanks for being on the show. You're going to give us some good insights today on solar, and I can't wait to dive into it.
I'm excited to be here. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that I feel like there's a lot of, it's still relatively unknown, particularly here in Texas, and there's a lot of misunderstandings. And I love your background. You start seeing more and more houses having the solar panels, and it's and as we know, the Texas grid is now like world famous. So it's definitely a conversation that a lot of people need to have. So I'm really happy that you're here to give us a little bit of insight on all of that. So to get you started, how about you tell us a little bit about your background and how come you chose solar?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. So I've been in business for over 30 years, and but I came from corporate America. I spent the majority of my career in corporate training and professional development. More specifically, like fleet safety, reducing accidents and liabilities for major corporations. I did a lot of traveling, and then I about 10 years ago, I segued and went into the import-export business, and I was representing American-made producers of gourmet food, beverages, and health and beauty products. So I got to travel a lot overseas. And one reason that solar became very interesting to me is the fact that, and really 10 years ago, I didn't know anything about solar energy. I didn't. But I was on an airplane and I was flying over to Australia, to Melbourne, Australia. And my next stop after that was to Shanghai, China. Well, the monitor into Shanghai on my departure out of DFW to Melbourne, the Shanghai monitor was black. And I asked a flight attendant what that meant. And she said that the air quality in China was so bad that the pilots couldn't see to land the airplanes. So that was a concern because a week later I was supposed to be in China, right? Shanghai. So I got to Australia and I was flying over, and this was 10 years ago. And I started noticing solar panels. And Australia was beautiful. It was clean, very progressive. And so fast forward then a few days later, I'm in Shanghai. I'd never seen an entire population of people wearing masks before. Remember, this was way before COVID. And it had to do with the quality of the air. So then about 6 years ago, I needed to make a change. I cashed in the passport, was not willing to relocate. And I had to come up with another opportunity for Leesa. And I didn't want to start over and work for another company. And someone asked me, she said, Leesa, have you ever looked into the solar industry? And I had like these little light bulbs go off, and I actually got kind of chills, and it really resonated with me. And I thought, I think this is something that I can really learn about and get behind, because not only from a cost saving standpoint, again, I didn't really know how it all worked, but also from an environmental perspective too. So that's how I got into solar energy. I started talking to different solar companies here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I talked to 5 of them, and they all said, sure, come on board. And I picked the best one, who I thought, and I went to work. And it was a traditional solar company. And one thing that was interesting was that there wasn't a lot of training about the solar industry. A lot of it was learning on your own and kind of diving in or following somebody. So the company was very big into training about their policies and their procedures and how to use their CRM, et cetera, but not really much about how does it work.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And Jordan, I don't. It's just crazy that you can't land an airplane because you can't even do an instrument landing. Okay, give me a break. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Sorry,
The other thing I wanted to say
talk.
is I've been in the Mansfield area since 1980.
Oh wow! So
So
you've
yeah,
seen this area just
1980.
explode.
Yes. I lived with my mom and stepdad off of Walnut Creek, and back when it was the original 9, and when Cooper Street was just a little 2-lane road heading over to UTA. So been in this area forever. This is home, and Lisa's not going anywhere.
I was just to fill that story in to verify that I was here in '77 in Dallas, and one of my routes took me to Waxahachie and then back up to Fort Worth. And I can remember when 287 was a 2-lane highway with overhanging trees over it, like you're driving through a tunnel all the way to Fort Worth. No kidding. So there you go.
I know. And trying to get through to Dallas through the back roads, and
it was crazy.
Circle around the Goat Lady Farm, and all kinds of things. So
there you go.
Seeing lots of things going up.
So Jordan, jump in, man.
Okay. So that takes us to our next question, right? So you started getting more into solar energy, understanding how it works, and getting like a peek behind the curtain and just understanding the makings of it. So how is owning solar similar to owning a home? Because I know for us homeowners, like that's what do they call it? It's like whenever you like dive into homeowning is like drinking out of a fire hose. And I'm assuming understanding solar must have been similar experience. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So first off, when somebody owns a home, you basically have a rent or you can own. And so a lot of people, they start by renting an apartment, or they're renting a house and paying somebody else's mortgage, right?
Yeah.
And then as they're able to come up with a little money for down payment, now they can purchase a home. And that home may or may not be a little bit more expensive than the rent that they were paying, right? But most people are buying a house because they want ownership, right? They want to be able to own something. Yes, there's a mortgage there, but at the light at the end of the tunnel is you can own and build up equity in a home and have something that you own. Well, when you own or you rent a home, you still have to have electricity. So people are shopping around and they're buying electricity. They're actually renting it, okay? Because it's a perpetual bill that never goes away. You have a choice. You can buy a house and have a mortgage payment that you can actually pay off, and you can rent electricity for the rest of your life. Or a solar system. You put a solar system on your home, the sun is producing electricity for the house, and it's something that you actually own or pay off. So you can pay cash for your system. We have lease programs that are available, or we have financing that can help a homeowner make a payment and eventually own their own power production based on the roof space that they have available, or the yard. If you've got ground, we work with a lot of people that have farms or ranches or acreage, and they want to be able to have their own electricity to power their whole ranch. We can do that too. So that's the difference. It's like you get into the mindset of renting electricity, and that's what people have been doing for over 100 years, right? The grid here in Texas is over 100 years old, and you've been paying a perpetual utility company all that money. So to put in this perspective, when I put solar on my house, I'd already been in my home for 27 years. I did the numbers, and I'd spent over $95,000 on electricity.
Oh, wow.
And I don't $95,000. So if I were a homeowner, looking to buy a house, why not only be able to pay off your house? I would have had my solar system paid off a long time ago. And that's a lot of money that could have gone to other areas, right? So think of it that way. Do you want to rent electricity, or do you have something that you can actually own and pay off?
And I think the intriguing part to this, and we'll get into how it works in a minute, but the intriguing part of this is, understanding that our grid's not getting any better. A lot of renewables are happening, and they're cutting back on some what I think are pretty basic essentials that need to be part of the grid, regardless if we buy solar or not, right?
Right.
So I think more and more people, in my opinion, are starting to take a harder look at it, simply because it's an alternative, right? It's a way to having a way to kind of control your own grid, so to speak, and so I think that's kind of cool. So how does all this solar work?
Oh, sure. And to go back to what you were saying, Herdy,
Sure.
Here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we're like the #1 market in the country for new homeowners, or for homeowners that are moving in from other states. In fact, 30% of people that are moving into the area are coming from California, and our infrastructure is not keeping up with it. The roads, the water, and now the electricity and the grid. So we've got a long ways to go. And so for those of us who are able to produce our own electricity, think of it this way. I'm talking to you on solar energy. I'm running my home on solar energy. Okay. So I'm not causing any stress to the grid. Sun's hitting my solar panels, and we're operating on solar power. And any extra solar energy that I don't use today is going to turn my meter backwards, and it's going to be stored out on the grid to come back to me at tonight.
Yeah, so you obviously have, and let me get into this next question, because it's where we're going. So how does solar work? You just started that conversation. I don't want to get ahead of you. So jump in and tell us a little bit about, we know it has something to do with the sun. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
I'm kidding.
Absolutely. It's the sun, solar. Yes. And the sun's not going anywhere.
Thank
right?
you.
It's not. We're never going to lose the sun.
Just 4 minutes.
And in fact, we've got enough solar. We've got enough sunshine coming in from the sun in 1 minute to power the entire state of Texas for 4 years. 1 minute.
Wow.
Okay, it's not going away. And you think about it from a global perspective. I don't want to get off track. I want to stick to this question, and we'll talk about what's happening in the future. So how does it work? It's you see the solar array behind me. Those solar panels are connected. There's an inverter, and the job of the inverter is just to convert this energy that you need for your home. There's a couple of different types of inverters, and a good solar advisor is going to pick the right inverter based on the house and the roof and what they need. But that's all it is. There's really no movable parts. We put the solar panels on the roof. We use a racking system for that. The inverter is converting the sun's electricity. We're producing solar energy. We're connecting to the grid. So we do require, the grid requires an interconnection agreement so that we can send electricity back to the grid. Right. And then at night it can roll back to us. Now, to clarify, Texas is a unique market, right? We like to think of ourselves, we have our own country of Texas. We're pretty unique. I know. But nationally, we have 3 grids. There's an eastern grid, there's the western grid, and then we have ERCOT. So ERCOT is Texas only. And so all of our electricity is being generated, through we're being regulated through ERCOT. When we're in the Arlington, Mansfield, Kennedale areas, Grandview even, you go out to your meter on the side of your house or on a pole, and it'll say Encore. So Encore is responsible for the poles and the wires.
Right.
And then we can shop, right? We can go and we can retail. We can buy electricity from whoever we want. And, the most common ones around here are TXU, Reliant, Champion, Chariot. There's probably 15 that people can go and shop for. Similar to if somebody needs a gallon of gas, they can go to Shell or Exxon. They can go to Costco. They can go to Walmart, wherever they want to buy their gasoline from. It's gasoline, right? But you're shopping for rates, and those rates change. They fluctuate. Okay. Now, also in our area and throughout Texas, there's 80 different co-ops. So a co-op means that you're locked in. You can't shop for electricity. You have to buy directly from that co-op. Your only alternative is to produce your own through solar energy. And those co-ops, every co-op, they have different rules and regulations on how they interconnect with solar. So it's very important for here close to us, there's CoServe. So some of our listeners might be in the CoServe area, which is kind of near the Granbury area. That's a co-op. They're very good for solar energy. There's some co-ops that aren't quite so good. So, yeah.
So
and how does it, whenever you get your panels and they're generating electricity for your house, and then it goes to an inverter and then it powers your house, right? But then I understand like some of it goes back to the grid.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. Okay. So, on your meter right now, when you don't have solar energy, what happens is every time you turn on a light bulb, you open your refrigerator, you start your dishwasher, your meter's going ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. You're getting charged for every single kilowatt hour that you use. That's how they're measuring electricity. Same thing when you go to the gas station, they're charging you per gallon of gas, or the grocery store for a pint of grapes, whatever that is, that weight measurement, that's what you're being charged for. They're charging us electricity by the kilowatt hour. All right. Most people don't track how much electricity they're using, right? So all they're doing is paying a bill that they may not even see, because so many from our checking account, right? We don't even see our bills anymore. So that kilowatt hour. Now, what happens with solar energy is, now when I'm talking to you, my solar panels are converting the electricity that I need. My meter's not going ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. I'm just using the solar energy that I use, that I need. Now, any extra that I produce that I'm not using is now going to turn my meter backwards. And now I'm depositing credits out to the grid. So I'm sending electricity back to the grid. Okay. And now the grid becomes my safety deposit box for electricity. So at night, now there's different terms, and just to keep it real simple, when you look at a utility bill, right? This is something. You look at that utility bill and you'll see a retail rate for electricity, what they're charging you per kilowatt hour. You're going to see a delivery fee. Yeah. And then you're going to see a service fee, and then you're going to see another fee, and then we call it the fee FIFO FUM fee, and we call it the fee.
I saw a Jordan fee, and I saw a Hurdy fee in one of the bills, and
all these little things, and it's like, what are all these? Now you're, in Texas, we've got another one that we've got to pay back, the money because of Snowmageddon a few years ago. So all of these different fees add up. And so with solar, we're able to produce our own electricity. We're sending electricity back. It's important when you go solar that your advisor, your solar consultant, knows which solar energy plan to convert the homeowner over to after their solar system has been installed. Because that's a big misconception. And I see that sometimes where, somebody might be on Nextdoor or Facebook and, having conversations saying, I've got 2 bills, my solar's not working. And one of the biggest things that I find is the fact that that homeowner wasn't advised that they need to change their solar energy plan to a renewable plan, a energy plan that's going to buy back their electricity. Okay. And there's certain ways that we size systems. Not every house can get 100% offset. Some I can get 50%. I mean, if they've got the roof space, because it's based on how much electricity. So let me ask you this, Hurdy. Okay, so if you were to tell me about your house and I were to ask you how many people are living in your home? 2. Okay. How about you, Jordan? How many people live in your house?
4.
4. Say you had identical homes, same floor plan, same setup. Who do you think is going to use more electricity?
Jordan.
Pretty, because he uses too much technology.
Hot air.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. But there's so many different factors. Yeah. So there's a lot of different factors that come into really sizing a system appropriately for the homeowner. And a lot of it has to do with how are you using the home?
Yeah. Like I like to keep my house pretty cool during the summer, and I'm sure that's a pretty big drain.
That's exactly right. And some people, they may have different requirements, different needs. Some people aren't home during the day. Others have 6 children and they're, mom and dad living in the house. Some people have a swimming pool, a sauna. So a lot of different things take into factor that's going to require more electricity. But basically it's analyzing how much energy a home really needs and what we can produce based off the real estate available.
So I'm gonna get. Can I ask a question? Yeah. Never mind. Go ahead, Jordan. We're having a conversation. So
Sure.
By the way, everybody should understand. Jordan, Hurdy, and Leesa are in 3 different locations. So sometimes we don't really have people in the studio in front of us pointing, you're on, you're off, you're on, talking our ear. Okay. So like the old days. But anyhow,
all organic and intuition.
I want to go back and repeat some things you said. So you put these solar panels on top of your house, either you lease them or you buy them, right? And then you run them through an inverter. And the reason you can sell electricity back to the grid is because you have some sort of system that's storing it, right? After hours when the sun goes down, correct? So if you had something go wrong, you've got backup power, right? So are you selling the addition? Is that a misconception? Or are you selling the additional back because you're over 100% capacity on your battery?
Love it. So great question. Okay. Because this kind of debunks some of the misconceptions out there about solar.
Good.
Okay. So I have solar panels on my house. Love my solar. When Snowmageddon hit, I had no power for days. None.
Right.
And people say, Leesa, you have solar energy. Why didn't you have electricity? I didn't have electricity because I don't have a battery. I've been in my house for well over 20 years, had never really lost power for very long, maybe a couple hours at a time, but it didn't really impact my way of life, right?
Right.
So I didn't choose to size my system with a battery. So how does this work? And that's a good question when I meet with a homeowner or somebody who's considering solar, for the home is, what do you do when the grid goes down? Because if the grid goes down and you have solar only, guess what? You don't have power either. Now,
right.
With a battery can be added to the system. Very simple to do. There's several different sizes of batteries. So the conversation is this: Hurdy, when you lose power, and if you're looking at storage, are you wanting to have just a home essential backup, which means some lights, your refrigerator, be able to cook some food, maybe have your computer and TV? We can do a system to get you that essential.
I can answer that. I do have, because I live in an apartment, I'm not allowed to have gas or diesel generation. So I have a 2000 with an extended battery to 3000 watt capacity to plug in lights, a TV, a refrigerator for a while. But I will tell you that it goes really fast because people don't realize how many watts a refrigerator uses, or some big thing that you can't run your air. You're not going to be able to run your home air conditioning or heat. It's going to be strictly for a downtime for a short, brief period of time. And like you, we all learned this lesson that, hey, when the grid almost fails and you're down 4 days, those wouldn't have done you any good either, because they would have run out within 4, 5, 6 hours. So yes, good point. Good point.
Right, right. So with the solar batteries, then if we size the system to say a full home backup, and again, that has to do with how much electricity the home needs, right, to consume, then we size the system accordingly so that what happens is the solar panels are now charging the battery. So when the sun is up, and the batteries are smart. The technology on the batteries, they're smart. They know the grid's going to go down before it goes down. Okay, so now they can direct that energy to the battery. The battery's charged up. The grid disconnects. There's an automatic safety disconnect from the solar system to the grid. Okay, because we can't be pulling power from the grid when people are out there working on it. Bad things happen, right? You can't.
Yeah, bad things happen. Bad things happen. Yeah.
Right. So there's a safety disconnect. And so now my solar system is disconnected from the grid. If I have battery backup, now my battery is powering my house. I, as a homeowner, may not even know that the grid is down.
Right.
Okay. So there's an app on your phone. You can see exactly how that is, what that's powering up. There's some really great things that are out there. I've got several different battery options for my homeowners. The way that if we're looking at, say, a essential home backup, to where somebody says, well, I really don't want to, get 4 batteries or 3 batteries, whatever, but maybe 1 battery is going to be sufficient to get me through with the things that I have to have. The way that we do things now is we have a sub panel that's connected to the system, and then the homeowner has to decide if the grid goes down, what do they need running? And then we direct the engineers, the electricians will direct everything to that panel.
Perfect.
We've got other options now. I've got a smart panel. It's called a SPAN, a smart panel. We don't need that sub panel anymore. You've got a battery. You can tell that electricity, what needs to be charged. Tesla 3, their new Powerwall 3 has been released, and that's a really cool battery that eliminates the need for a sub panel. So there's a lot of great things that are happening technology-wise when it comes to battery backup storage systems. Okay.
So what is and Jordan can probably ask this better than me. So Jordan, how would you discuss this, the technology changes? Just what sort of improvements are we going to see in the future? What's happening now that's really beneficial, that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. First, I want to get it a little bit more alarmist, right? Because let's get some drama.
Oh, come on.
Leesa,
okay.
you've been here for quite a while, right? So you know the Mansfield area very well. In your experience, how have you seen the rate of blackouts? Have they increased or decreased over the years? And what have you seen for the past, let's say, 4 years?
Wow. I think because there's been so many people that have been moving into the area, it could probably be more frequent. That Snowmageddon was, I think a lot of people woke up, especially when it came to the need and the necessity for backup battery and storage systems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, talk about, there's going to be money that's going to be required to keep the grid going the way that it has been. And we all pay for that, because when you look at how we're getting electricity now, how many steps does it take to drill, to process, to run lines? I mean, there's millions of miles of electrical lines that are running across the country. Okay, the underground, overhead, all of those things require maintenance, right? When we're producing solar energy, we've got a direct path from the sun to the house, to the solar panels, right? As far as with technology changes. So one thing, let's talk about solar panels. I have some people say, well, I want to wait to get solar because I want to wait until we get the next level of solar panels for efficiency reasons. And you know what? Go back to this. If we were to wait to get the most recent update on a cell phone, how many of us would actually have a cell phone? Right?
That's a pretty good analogy.
Yes. Yeah.
We
How
would
long
never
are you
have
going
a
to
cell
have the
because
latest iPhone?
yeah, I want to wait till no, it's electricity, guys. It's the same electricity, only we're producing it clean from the sun. So the solar panels themselves, like my panels, are going to be producing electricity for the next 30 years. As far from a solar panel technology, I don't care what's going to happen 10, 15 years from now. My panels have one job, and that is to power my house with energy. Okay. And that's what it's going to do for the next 30 years. Now, when we're talking about technology changes, I think now we're talking about more about what some of the other home efficiency things that are available, and battery technology for storage. So those are some things that are pretty exciting to talk about. So if we were to look at the future, and this is already happening in areas as well, we can become our own power plant. Okay. And the way that technology is going is, say, Herdy, you're in Mansfield, and, Jordan, you're in, I'm just saying, Kennedale. I don't know where you are. We're all three different little pod areas, right? I'm out of town. I'm storing up a lot of electricity. This is just a scenario in the future, right? I'm storing up a lot of electricity. I'm looking at my app, and I'm going, I've got about, 2,400 kilowatt hours here that I might be able to put out there on the market. And Herdy is needing to buy electricity, and I can tap a button and he can buy my electricity from me. These are things that are happening with, where the future is going, where we can set up our own mini microgrids.
So wow. So that is super interesting. So that means that you become a reseller of electricity to those folks who may need some extra wattage or extra kilowatts, right, during something. So if a part of town went down and they were going to be out 10 hours, but they wanted to have some power right then, they could buy this if they were on a system that allowed them to have power, right? I mean, if the grid's down, the grid's down. Doesn't do any good to buy it if the grid's down around your house, right? You can't get to it. So, but on the other hand, to say you can transfer electricity between homes or areas is a pretty cool idea.
Yep. Yeah. And we're not too far away from that. Yeah. We're not too far away from that.
I'll sign up for that business.
And, let's talk about Tesla for a minute. And they actually started their own, not many people know this, but they actually now have their own electricity company here in the state of Texas.
They're building
It's only available. It's the only state. It's a pilot program that they have now. To be able to qualify for the program, you either have to have a Tesla vehicle or a Tesla Powerwall.
Right.
But my homeowners
and I know
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I said, I guess I know now that he had mentioned that he was building these big, huge battery storage units, right, to store electricity for these grid downships. And I think he's already installed one somewhere west, if I may be wrong, but I've been trying to keep up that a little bit. So good.
Yeah. And so the cool thing with the Tesla electric plan is it has a Tesla Powerwall. They, when we buy, we talk about, because electricity is a commodity. Yeah, when electricity is a commodity, right? It changes every few seconds. The cost of electricity changes every few seconds. And so the way that the Tesla electric plan works, if somebody has access to it, is, you have an app here and you can be trading electricity back and forth to Tesla Electric, and you can load up your Powerwall. And I don't want to get into all the details right now, but it's a way that somebody can, they can, reach out to me, and I'm happy to share with them how that all works. But if you've got a Tesla Powerwall, you could be selling electricity back to the grid that way. Tesla Electric,
I want to talk about deregulation and regulated in a minute, but I'm looking at the solar panels in the picture behind you. And I guess a question you probably get that's not in your list, I just want to make sure we have a conversation about it. We are known to have 3 to 4 inch hail here. We're known to get dust storms, and you have to clean stuff. And so is there maintenance that goes along with a purchase or lease, or are you totally responsible as a homeowner, totally responsible for the solar maintenance, or is there actual companies he can sign agreements with? Is that something you do? I'm just curious, because a lot of people, my neighbor has a house and he was asking that question: who's responsible for my panels?
Absolutely. Okay, great. Love that question. So the panels, when we're talking about top rated panels or tier 1 panels, they're rated for golf ball size hail, typically 130 mile an hour winds. So they're stronger. They're made from the same glass that, say, an airplane window is made from. They're stronger than a normal asphalt roof.
Gotcha.
Now, that saying, it doesn't mean that they can't be damaged. So it's important that should somebody choose to buy a solar system, or they're paying cash or taking out a loan for it, they do need to talk to their insurance company, let them know that they have put a solar system on their house. Okay. So that should something horrible happen, like a tornado, whatever, come through, wipe out the whole house, you're covered. Now,
Gotcha.
if we're leasing the system, typically the lease company is responsible for the system. When we're talking about maintenance, there's very, very little maintenance. I've had my system 4 years. I've not done a thing to my system. We've got enough rain here where I am. Now, I'm not surrounded by trees, so I get enough wind and rain to where those systems, and I've got a 2-story house, my panels on the 2nd story. So I've got enough wind and rain that have been keeping those panels clean, and I'm getting very efficient. There are services that will come out and clean your solar panels, but you, the homeowner, if you wanted to just take a hose, if you don't think you're getting enough rain, whatever, you can hose them off.
Okay,
So you don't want to put any chemicals on your solar panels. But yeah, so very, very low, there's no movable parts. And with that said, there's still warranties. So it's important to make sure that you understand the manufacturer warranties, and then whoever installs the system, that they have warranties as well to cover the labor.
Gotcha.
So 25-year warranty on the equipment, that's for the solar panels and the inverter. And then labor, when homeowners work with me, I cover the labor for 25 years as well, the installation.
Cool.
Gotcha.
That's
Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about this. What is the difference between a regulated market and a deregulated market?
Okay, all right. So great question. This is really important for anybody who's considering solar. First thing is who's on your meter. If it's Encore here in North Texas, it means that you are deregulated and you can buy your electricity from anybody that you want, and you can go solar. If you go out and you look at your meter and it says something like Grayson County, it says CoServe, it says Tri-County, it says Wise Electric, or, Farmers, these all different co-ops in the state of Texas, they have their own rules and regulations on solar energy. Some are wonderful. Some will actually pay you. Some will send you check rebate money to go solar. They want you to go because they've had so many people moving into their area that their infrastructure isn't keeping up with it. Okay. And then there's other areas that they don't. They look at solar as perhaps being a little bit of competition, because now you're producing electricity yourself and you don't have to come to us and buy it. So those are things that need to be considered as the homeowner. If you're in a co-op, you can call and talk to the renewable energy department. There's usually 1 or 2 specialists there, or your solar advisor should do that for you, because these things change. Pretty much here in North Texas, Encore, but you drive out to Weatherford, or some of these up down south to Grandview. Grandview's half Encore, half half United.
Georgetown, Texas is a big co-op down near Austin. Austin.
Yes. And so those are all things that we need to understand. Some co-ops have size restrictions, that you can't size a system more than X amount of your total consumption. And others will say, in Wise County, they just changed all their requirements. And now they're saying, as long as you don't exceed 50 kW, build away. And they will buy out at the end of the year, send you cash money for any extra electricity that you didn't use. So if you needed only a 20 kW system to take care of 100% of your electricity, and you built a system at, say, 49 kW, you're going to get cash money for them to buy your electricity. Okay. So there's different things that are, because they need it. They want you to go solar. So
they're wanting that extra help. So that kind of leads to the next question, like with a house or business qualifying for solar, because I know there's you just mentioned the regulation things. And then briefly earlier, you had talked about just the amount of footprint that you have available for generating that electricity as well.
Right, and that's a really good question, because we look at when we're looking to qualify a home is what kind of structure is it, and then is it located where it's going to get sunlight. You can't be in the forest and expect your solar system to produce. And so I literally have had conversations with homeowners, about how much do you love your trees.
Right.
And it sounds like kind of a paradox, because solar, green energy, trees, good for earth. But I had a homeowner in Dallas that actually cut down 10 trees to put a solar system up. He said, my wife wants a garden. We want to plant our own vegetables. Let's get rid of the trees. We're tired of cleaning up after them. So they cut down 10 trees, and we put up a beautiful solar system. And then I had another homeowner that said, what was it? A pecan tree was 100 years old. And my great grandfather planted that, and it's not going anywhere. I said, I understand. I love that. You love that tree more than solar. It won't work, because we got to get that sunlight there. So those are things. Oftentimes, like the house for this installed project here, it's got that beautiful straight roof line. So we've got that beautiful panel, right? Whole array. That's a big array. Sometimes just the roof lines. If you've got some of these castle-y type homes with different, pitches and different, sides, we may not be able to get nearly the amount of electricity that this house will produce, even though it might be the same size. One house might be, and that's why, people say, well, my neighbor paid this for their system. Why is mine that? You're not looking at apples and apples.
Mm-hmm.
Your neighbor doesn't have your lifestyle. Your neighbor isn't, using their electricity, and their roof isn't the same. They may not have as many upgrades to the home. How old is the air conditioning unit? Do you have insulation in your attic? Are you planning to do any home upgrades? Are you expanding your home? Are you planning to purchase an electric vehicle? Are you downsizing? You've got 4, kiddos that are off to college. You're not going to need as much electricity, right? So those are all things that are going to take into consideration when we're looking at, will the house qualify for solar? And not every house can get 100%, and that's okay. If I can come up with a design where we can maximize the available roof space, or we call it the real estate that we have available to build a system, and if I can get you 50% solar, that's 50% ownership. That's better than zero.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things to consider, and those can still offer significant savings, in the future, in the long run, because now you're hedging against, let's talk about the rising cost of electricity, right? We talked about how the bills work, and we discussed what's all those different line items on a bid. Well, I've seen in Texas, and actually in Texas, we actually have some of the lowest utility rates in the country. Okay. I've seen, when I started in solar, we were looking at 10 anywhere to 15 cents a kilowatt. Now we're at like 14 cents up to 20 cents a kilowatt. Okay. So there has been some growth. There's different parts of the country, where they're paying 25, 30 cents a kilowatt. California, Hawaii are atrocious, up to 40 cents a kilowatt.
That's crazy.
Yes. For the same for electricity, for the same
That's
electricity.
crazy.
So that's what we're hedging when we're looking at building our own system. My rate is never going to go up. I've got a locked in, fixed in rate. My system is going to be paid off in just a couple of years, and then I'm generating free electricity. Versus my neighbors who may not have solar, they're paying that 14 cents, then it might go 16 cents. And before you know it, instead of having a $150 a month bill, now you're looking at a $180 a month bill, or $250, $300. I've seen them at $500 a month just for electricity.
Yeah.
So that's what we call, if we go back to what's the difference between owning a home or renting a home.
Mm-hmm.
With a mortgage payment, most people get into a mortgage payment at a fixed rate. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They fixed in that rate. My house payment is, say, $2,000 a month. I know what that payment is every single month. That's what I budget against. Versus rent, that might continue to go up, right? Renting a house starting at $1,500, then it's $1,700, now it's $2,200 a month, and it just continues to go up. Electricity does the same thing. It's a variable rate. We don't know what's going to happen. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now with the grid. So yeah, right now here in Texas, yeah, people are saying, I'm kind of happy with 14 cents a kilowatt, 15 cents a kilowatt. But when we start going up to 18, 20 cents, what will that really look like in a few years from now?
Right. And they're making you sign, if you want a fixed rate, they make you sign lock you in for 4 or 5 years on a rate too. Right. So
exactly.
I have another question for you before we get into ROI. And I have a friend who didn't have gas service because he's in a resort area. So he put a propane tank in and he ran a Generac to the house, right? Backup generator. But he still wants to do solar because he wants to be able to run his AC and maintain that from the propane through the Generac, and then use solar as his main source, right? Depending on the grid. So do you see that? Do you bump into people's homes that have Generacs to natural gas and propane, but they want the solar too, so they can run other stuff instead of Okay.
Absolutely. They can run in parallel. Absolutely.
Okay,
if somebody's got gas, thing with gas, you have to have gas, right? So either you're having somebody
or a
come out
propane tank in the backyard, right? Yeah.
Right. And so as long as you have that propane tank filled and you can use your generator, you can run your electricity off of your solar panels. If you've got gas and you want to run your Generac, to power your gas, that's fine. Even the solar batteries can run in parallel with the generators.
Gotcha. So commercial. So I noticed that down at the corner of 287 and 67, when I drive to go down to Austin, I keep noticing that there's these solar panels laying out in this big cleared out field area. Are you aware of that? I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
Is that commercial? Is that for commercial, or is that part of the grid, or what are those for? Are they to power the cement company across the street? I'm just curious. This is just a curious question. That's all. If you're in the know, I just like to know. So
somebody figure out how to sell that electricity back.
All right. Yeah. So Rudy, that particular installation I'm not familiar with. So there's commercial, right? They're the solar farms where people have their own factories, manufacturing, and
that's probably what it's for. It's probably because it's right across the street from the cement, and I'm wondering if they're just thinking future for because of their production. But anyhow, so residential, commercial. Do you handle commercial too?
Absolutely, and there's great tax incentives for both. Okay,
that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, so for residential, for those of us who pay income taxes or owe taxes or however you want to call it, there's a 30% federal tax credit. It's an ITC, an investment tax credit. I always put the disclaimer, I am not a CPA. I don't know how people owe or pay taxes, right? But for people who pay taxes, it's 30% of the entire cost of the system, including batteries, including storage, including everything associated with the cost of installing a system. Okay, so that should a system be installed by December 31st of 2024, they take out a form, it's IRS form 5695. They put the entire cost of that solar system installation on the top line, take 30% tax credit, and submit it to the federal government. Okay. I can't guarantee who's going to get that back because you got to put the money in. And if you can't get the whole 30% back in the first year, you can roll over whatever the difference is year after year.
Gotcha.
If somebody owes, maybe they've got a huge tax liability, they pay taxes at the end of the year, they just write out a big old check. It could be used perhaps liability. Right.
So call your CPA and
call your
make
CPA.
Sure
yes.
He knows what's going on and put the stuff in front of him and say, make it happen.
Yes. Make it happen. Make it happen because it's the government wants people to go solar. Okay.
That's right.
There's a big push for that. And politics aside, it's there and available. You might as well use it because it can save substantial amount. Now, then when it comes to commercial, so for commercial, depending on certain areas in the state of Texas that are kind of more rural, there's not only the 30% tax credit, but there's also perhaps a 60% depreciation that can occur within year 1 for the solar system. Okay. And when we get into rural, like some of the farmers and ranchers or manufacturing, there's special REAP grants. They're rural energy grants that are available that can also provide funding for commercial projects as well.
Gotcha.
So, commercial is there's a lot of things, and I very nuanced. I work with grant writers that will work and go to work for my companies, for the businesses, to get them all of the available grants and rebates that are available. And that takes specialties. That takes expertise to do that.
So do your research.
So
Absolutely.
Where would rental properties fall in this case?
Sure. So if the owner of that rental property wants to put solar on that house, absolutely, we can do that. Cash is typically the best way to do it. Now, I do have some finance companies that will finance a second or third home. So if they've lived in that home or they've had it as a primary residence, they may be able to get financing available for that. But yes, so in fact, I have someone that is interested in putting solar on their rental house and being able to just provide that as an incentive to keep the renters there, because now he's covering their electricity as well. So cash, we can do absolutely, anything. Somebody might want to roll into a refi on that property. But think of it, that house has got to have electricity either way.
Yeah.
They can either pay an electric bill or you as the homeowner of the rental property, but you have to own the roof. So if you're a renter and you're living in a rental house, you have to get that homeowner is the one who actually has to sign the documents.
Right.
Because you can't, you wouldn't want to go
in. And I'm coming from the point of view of, you own rental properties and, I'm also wondering if you have an incentive as far as like a tax break. Can you also stack a tax break on your rental property?
That's a good question, and I'm not qualified to really get into that. I would defer that to a CPA, Jordan.
Hey.
CPA. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah.
But that's a good question. Yeah, absolutely, for asking tax advice.
So I'm curious, what did we miss? Did we cover this pretty well today, or what?
Well, let's talk about the return on investment on solar, right?
Like I'd like to know.
Long term, once you paid off all your panels, it's obvious, right? Free electricity.
Right. I love that question. I get it all the time. And think of it this way. When if you were to go to, say, who are you buying electricity from now, Jordan? Who do you send that check to every month?
Who am I using? It was TXU for a very long time. We just recently switched, and honestly, I can't tell you who.
That's
but for the past 5 years, we were with TXU.
Stream Energy.
Okay, Stream Energy, TXU, well, any of those, right? What is your ROI with buying electricity from that company today?
Oh,
none.
I guess I don't sweat.
14.9 and none. Write the check.
There you go. Yeah, that's exactly right. Because there is none. There's none. You'll never see the end of it. So 20 or 30 years from now, like Leesa, $95,000 later, gone. Okay. So just take what you're spending on electricity, put it into your solar, and get it paid off. What that ROI is going to change whether you pay cash or whether you choose to finance, because interest rates are changing. They're variable as well. So when I look at an ROI, it's what is that investment? An investment in your home is a good thing. A utility bill is a liability because it'll never go away. Versus your solar, maybe you've got a payment, but just like a mortgage payment, is it better to have a mortgage payment? And again, it's all, some people rent. That's a choice, right? They want to rent a house. They don't want the responsibility of ownership. Okay. So it has to be a choice. Like I said, solar energy is not for everybody, right? But we've got to understand, what are the long-term benefits of solar? And for me, when I look at it from an ROI standpoint, it's the fact that I can pay it off and generate free electricity utilizing the sun. the sun's
Yeah.
energy.
So
Mhm.
I was going to say, Leesa, so realistically, I mean, anybody that thinks this out realizes there's upfront, but that what's the long-term payoff, right? What is it I'm helping myself with over a long period of time? And that is the ability to, over a period of time, long term, to set myself up to be off the grid to some extent. And resale value, which we haven't mentioned. My understanding is people do have solar on their homes, seem to do very well on a resale. If I'm correct in assuming that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So when somebody has paid off solar, so if somebody has a home and they've paid their solar off, and let's just say that house is producing, I don't know, let's just throw a number. I like easy number. Let's just say 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. Let's just keep it low, right? So at 10,000 kilowatt a year, and if at that time they sell that house, electricity is selling for say 15 cents a kilowatt, right? So 15.15 times the 10,000. I'm using a calculator because math is just not my thing. So now you're looking at $1,500 a year of what somebody's been spending on electricity, right? So now you've got a house that's coming with basically $1,500 of electricity included, right?
Yeah.
It's included in your house. So instead of having to buy that in addition, it's just now included a part of your package. And if that homeowner needs more electricity than that 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, they just buy that extra whatever the retail rate is. Okay. So they still have electricity. Yeah, they still have electricity, but you're going to use your solar first. And then whatever your solar produces during the day, and say, I need more, I just buy that from the grid. But you use your solar first. So that's where it comes from. Now, if somebody is selling their house and they have finance, they've got a loan for their solar panels, the new homeowner does need to qualify. So now they're qualifying for the house, or sometimes what they'll do is just roll it into a refi and just refi the house and sell it all at once as one package.
Gotcha. Yeah. So again, that's just part of the process that somebody would go through, and they would know that in all the documentation that it's still out there as part of another loan. So that's cool. Okay.
Right. Yes.
So if people want to reach out to you, I have put Jordan, her website down there, solarsunshine.earth. I imagine you do on site, right? You pretty much have to meet with the homeowners and put a team on there and take a look at that roof and whatever it takes, right?
I do, and in fact, here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, absolutely happy to come out and meet with someone. The most important formula is that electric bill. Let's find out how much electricity that home uses and size the system based on that.
Yeah, that's super. And so solarsunshine.earth is the website, and that's how they find you, correct? So is that, I don't like to put phone numbers out or personal emails because I don't want people to spam me, obviously. So just go visit the website, solarsunshine.earth. Leesa Mansen is also in our Mansfield network group. We see her on Wednesdays. And so if you are in our group, and a lot of people will post this back up after the show, you can talk to her, set up a one-to-one with her, and get into a little conversation about this. So, Jordan, any final thoughts, sir?
Not really. I mean, this was a very in-depth and educational talk about solar. There's so many things. The thing that really sticks in my mind too is like, I didn't realize you could get so efficient with this that you could actually make money off of your solar panels. Like that's really cool. Like suddenly you're a little extra change that your house made for you.
Yeah. So those are some things that are coming in the future, and that's love. We talk about that, and it's all based on how much space we have to work with, what that production can be, how much do you use, and how much do you consume, and what co-op you're attached to. So there's some really good conversations I'd love to have with people.
And one final thought from me is that as batteries continue to get safer, right, that the chemical technology in them gets safer, so people don't have to worry about fires and things. We are getting very close to that now, where they've kind of figured out how to make the right usage of these long-term batteries for homes. So, man, I think you're in a Leesa, I think you're in a great product. I think that homeowners today are going to look for any advantage they can. I think a lot of people waking up to the fact that, um, we've got so much population in that triplex between Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, down to Houston, right? 95% of the population of Texas lives in this triangle. And so, when you have thousands of people moving here every single day, week, whatever, we're building. But I look down the street and I don't see my power grid getting added to at the same level I see houses being built. So there you go.
That's exactly right. So come on and just have your own power plant on your roof. Build your own power plant. Yeah, for sure.
Leesa, thanks for being on the Mansfield Buzz with us, folks. We are on every Thursday from 2 to 3. This is what we love to do. We love to cover our local businesses and give them a voice and give you a chance to reach out to them if you want, so that they can have a chance to maybe talk to you about their product and service they offer. This is an important one. So, Jordan, you're going to be working really hard behind the scenes to put some clips together for Leesa and some of our other guests we've had. And so, Leesa, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me as a guest on the Mansfield Buzz. It's been so great to be in this area for so long and see so many terrific things that have been happening in our community. Thank you so much, Hardy and Jordan.
Now you're going to love this. We're actually going to add some music to the end of this and kind of hang out for a minute so that we can close it out with a little bit of music going behind the scenes. So everybody have a great day. Jordan, thank you. Great host. Thank you, Leesa. We'll see everybody next week on the Mansfield Buzz on Thursdays from 2 to 3 on YouTube. Have a great day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.